Good evening. My name is Carl Dakin. I'll be the host and presenter tonight at the Opportunity Zones Meetup. This group comes together about twice a month to talk about specific issues in the implementation of Opportunity Zone tax legislation. And we come at it from both the funder side, from the community side, from the business or property side in receiving the money. And what we're trying to do is help share knowledge and build new knowledge on how best to take advantage of this particular legislation. And tonight's topic is going to be challenges to setting up opportunity zones. Since this law was passed in late 2017 now, almost 2 years ago, a lot of things have happened, but a lot of things haven't. And like a number of pieces of legislation, and I was commenting earlier, that similar to crowdfunding, when it was passed at the federal level, there was the expectation that all kinds of money would come off Wall Street, would find its way into the hands of small businesses and Main Street, and it would have this major economic revival taking place. And we had similar comments, almost identical comments, about the potential impact of Opportunity Zone investment and how it was going to change the norm, particularly in the economic distressed communities that had been designated for Opportunity Zone tax treatment. And it hasn't been happening at the size and at the rate that everybody was talking about at the beginning, but you have to treat most of that as hype and spin and failure to take into account that people don't change how they do things overnight unless they have a good reason to do so. And if you don't know about it, which we'll talk about tonight, you're not going to change because you don't know about it. And if you don't understand it's superior, you can't make an informed decision, which we'll also talk about tonight. So tonight we're going to go through the program, and we're going to be talking about challenges and fixes. So I've identified 8 major challenges which I think are fixable. It's not an end-all list, and I'm going to invite you to contribute any other challenges that you're aware of to Opportunity Zone investing. Each of those, and we're going to talk about one or more different ways we can either cure it entirely or mitigate it to a point where it really isn't an issue anymore. There are some other challenges we can't do anything about. They're not going on the list because we have enough work to do just with those things that we can improve upon. So thank you for coming. To begin with, one of the sponsors is my company. I wear multiple hats. You're going to see a number of these before the evening is out. But I have a consulting company called Dakin Capital, and I basically work with people to build and conduct capital campaigns, usually for small businesses, but also getting into community groups and some government projects. And the idea is to try to take a different approach, different methodology to finding out who's going to give you money by focusing on people who are going to benefit from your success without a dependency upon the ROI. It changes the entire dynamic. It makes it easier to target who you should talk to, easier to craft an offer, and easier to pitch. So that's where I spend most of my time, but I also do a lot of work with specific projects, and I also do a lot of work with training in this area. Beyond that, one of my other projects, I wear another hat, is the Sugar Beet District project. This is a planned 50-acre mixed-use project up in Fort Collins. We're currently in the process of doing land acquisition to get this project started. Once we get the first parcel under contract, we intend to do a series of Opportunity Zone funds to acquire the land, do engineering, build out, and take it to everything it's going to be. The general concept is an optimized live-work where instead of having your family life and your business life being completely separate and distinct, this is trying to bring these two together in a way where they complement each other and work together for both environmental reasons as well as personal health and wellness. The next one who's sponsoring is Invest New Mexico. This is an Opportunity Zone fund that is raising capital now. Goal of $25 million to support small businesses in the state of New Mexico. We have a little over $3 million that is intended to arrive within the next 30 days and get that started. We've already identified 7 small businesses down there and adding more to the list. And we're being invited through this organization to work with local communities in helping them put together localized or special purpose opportunity zone funds to advance their economic development. The new one of the new kids on the block, is the new Colorado Center for Innovation and Community Capital. This is what Ron and I partnered on bringing it forward. And this is one where we decided it's time to create a funders fund, where instead of doing like the Project New Mexico, where you give out large chunks of money, we're going to work with small businesses to advance the cost of conducting a capital campaign, basically hiring the talent and steering them through the capital campaign process, picking up all the cost, with the intent that upon successfully concluding the campaign, they'll pay us back. We roll the money over, and we're currently trying to raise $600,000. We're partly down that path. With that amount of money, we have the potential to do over 20 businesses a year for 10 years during the term of our Opportunity Zone investment. So 200 businesses raising a minimum of $500,000 puts us at over $100 million in capital raise potential over the 10-year time period at a minimum. We're looking to have a lot of fun with this. We're going to change some of the rules on how money is raised. And this is also going to lead then to the next company, which is the Center for Innovation and Capital. This is where we're actually going to build new infrastructure systems to support capital raises by small business. We have 2 of them already in planning. One is a capital matching program to track all available types of capital, and then to match that with a business profile to determine what a business may immediately qualify for now or later in time. And then we're also looking at a skills training program, which is a new approach to education focused on individual skills instead of larger bundles of material or information. And we're going to start with producing 10 individual skill sets, all tied to raising capital, that will be presented live and online through a variety of mechanisms. The prior center that we talked about is based here in Colorado. We're already talking to setting up centers in 4 other states to do equivalent there that we're talking about doing here. And as soon as we get more done here, we'll be able to do more there. And then we're consulting with communities on how to take advantage of opportunity zones to leverage what they're doing for any number of reasons. And we'll talk about a little bit more in a moment, some of the enhancements that we've come up with to make opportunity zones bigger, better, and more powerful than they originally conceived. So at this point, I'm going to skip into that part 1. We're going to talk about what we're calling enhancements. So when you do an opportunity zone investment, it essentially is giving you a tax benefit where you get either deferral in the capital gains tax, or you get a reduction in your capital gains tax, or in the investment rollover of that, you get a complete waiver of tax if you leave it in for 10 years. And it's the basic benefit package that comes with that. The problem is that in certain projects, that benefit is not enough to attract money into a distressed economic community or into a specific project. And so we started asking ourselves, what else can we do that would make this more attractive? It's either going to create a higher ROI, or it's going to create a higher benefit to the community that would bring in an impact style investor or government or community money. And then we started looking at other things that would allow us to focus this to create a new business model for funding something that is a clear challenge to a particular community. And we're continuing to add to this list. The first of these is, as we were just talking a moment ago, is a funders fund. That when a small business in particular wants to go out and raise money, and it's not limited to small business, it includes a lot of real estate developers as well, they're going, yeah, I like that opportunity zone idea, but I just don't quite get it. I'm not sure how it works. I don't have the time to become an expert in it, and I'm in a hurry, or I've got to do something. And so at this point, we're saying, well, what can we do to fill the gap, time, money, knowledge, that ordinarily any small business encounters when it's raising money, It doesn't matter that it's opportunity zone money or other money, it's a challenge. So we're going to create systems that fill that gap so that a small business doesn't have to become an expert, doesn't have to spend all their time, and can focus on what they do best, which is running their business. So we've set up these one group, as I mentioned, it's going to be building the systems. The other one's going to be deploying those systems on a geographic or industry or social cause theme as we set those up. Second one is innovation. When we get into opportunity zones, the primary benefit occurs by putting your money to work for 10 years and letting it sit there the entire 10 years. So it's not a build and flip, it's not a get rich quick, it's using long-term patient capital mechanisms which have been largely lost, abandoned, forgotten in favor of instant gratification business models. And a lot of people are concerned about what they perceive to be problems here. And we're going to talk about this as one of the challenges today. But one of the countermeasures that we're thinking is to put an innovation hub into a community or a large real estate property project that will work to create jobs to address other problems in the community so that the community is actually growing and thriving by the time you get to the end of the 10-year cycle. And therefore, when you come out with the investors, there's a higher probability that you'll have higher value in your project, which will give a greater return to everybody, rather than being completely dependent upon whatever the market winds happen to blow. One of the things we've been working on is workforce housing. This one, we're talking with several groups right now about pilot projects. The general concept is instead of going to the government and asking for major subsidies to overcome the cost of housing, called affordable housing, and then being limited by government regulations, which don't work, where you have too large of a delta between the average labor wage and the current cost of property. We're looking at a purely private funded approach to what we call low cost housing that any worker can afford. And we're looking at doing this by having an opportunity zone fund created where the employer of the employees guarantees the buyout of the property at the end of the 10-year term, also can serve to guarantee any loans or construction mortgages that are put into place behind that. And then during the course of the 10 years, it's rented to their employees within a stock incentives type employee benefit program so that those people can move from rent to ownership within the 10-year cycle or at the end of the 10-year cycle, and everybody comes out ahead. You have a guaranteed buyout to the investors in the opportunity zone. The employer has an ability to attract best workers because they have good housing. The cost of the housing during the rental period may be at or below market because you've pushed the principal to the back end. And then the employees end up with ownership. So we're not just kicking the can down the road like most affordable housing projects. Another one is insurance banking. We learned earlier this summer that the attributes of whole life insurance policies, particularly if they're overfunded, creating a net cash value within the policy, have similar attributes to value or wealth building that you'll find in an opportunity zone investment, and that it's possible to combine these in a way where you're getting a dual benefit with the same money. So by buying a whole life insurance policy and overfunding it, and then borrowing from that in order to invest into an opportunity zone investment, you are able to get a huge death benefit for the insured, but at the same time you have access to the cash at reasonably low cost and instant access when you need it, and that money can be invested into something that's also generating a profit. So you end up with a very interesting dual benefit through that, and we're looking at now using this as an enhancement for various reasons, both to the small business recipient or to the investor or both. Skills training is one that has been on my plate for a long time. We are looking to create training to as an augment to a community project. So we're trying to create higher paid workers who can pay higher rents for more housing, which leads to a stronger community. And we're going to be doing it in a different fashion. And again, we're looking at an opportunity zone fund that has a pool of money. It provides for the production and delivery of the skills training, and then the workers pay back for their training as a percentage of revenue, like a rev share over time, which creates an interesting ROI for the investors. And at the same time, it's actually cheaper, more effective than it is for more classical forms of education. So I mentioned before, opportunity zones. Everybody here is generally familiar, so I'm not going to go into. We haven't seen any new rules release or major announcements or interpretations or opinions issued over the last several weeks. So everything's pretty much where it's been for a while. We are anticipating we're going to see more things occurring, but this is a slow boat moving in terms of figuring out where we stand. And you either have to take the guess and say, let's go forward with what we know, or if you're more conservative, you're going to need to wait till there's greater clarity on these rules. Lastly, in this part of the program, if you have an Opportunity Zone project, or if you have an Opportunity Zone fund that you want to talk about, this is where we'll give you 5 minutes to stand up here and share with everybody what you're doing. This program, as I indicated earlier, we video record it and we post it up on YouTube, so it's visible to the world, and we do know that people are reading it all across the United States based on comments and projects that we're talking to from the East Coast to the West Coast. And all the way down to Texas, which is part of the United States. But if you have a project that you would like to get spread around to let people know you exist, please contact me and we'll get you 5 minutes of fame up here on this program. So with that, we're going to finish part one. We're going to take a short break now.